Hello, my friends. Today we are starting with the fact that yesterday the Kremlin announced that Putin would make a statement in the evening regarding Trump's ultimatum. But when evening came, no statement appeared. Instead, a new message was released from the Kremlin. There will be no address from Putin today. He made a statement to the media after the Russian Laos negotiations, but it didn't mention Ukraine or Trump at all. Tomorrow, Lukashenko is expected to arrive in Russia. Maybe something will be said during the meeting. So basically, everyone is waiting to see how Putin will respond to Trump's ultimatum because clearly Putin doesn't know what to do and hasn't personally commented on anything that's going on. But Trump said that by August 8th, there should be a deal to stop the war in Ukraine. Here is what he said.
I think it's Russia. I think it's disgusting what they're doing. I think it's disgusting. This is Biden's war. It's not my war. But I said if I get in, I'll try and get the thing stopped. But I think what Russia's doing is very sad. A lot of Russians are dying. You have a lot of Russians. More Russians are dying. But Russians are dying. Ukrainians are dying. The United States isn't really involved in that war. It shouldn't be. And by the way, I made a deal with NATO where NATO pays us for. Yeah, we have about 8 guys. So yeah, we're going to put sanctions. I don't know that sanctions bother him. They know about sanctions. I know better than anybody about sanctions and tariffs and everything else. I don't know if that has any effect, but we're going to do it. Europe is extremely upset, but this is a war that should have never happened.
Friends, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Now, let's move to the front lines, and here it's a complete disaster. In the Kostiantynivka direction, the situation has worsened around Chasiv Yar. Russian forces managed to advance and have reportedly taken full control of the Shevchenko neighborhood. And they also claim to have taken full control of the outskirts of Chasiv Yar, meaning the entire area is now under their control. The Ukrainian side hasn't confirmed this information. According to the general staff, fighting is still ongoing for the outskirts of Chasiv Yar, although it's true that Shevchenko is now held by Russian forces. So either way, the front has moved for the first time in a while, and Russian troops have advanced, which is already very bad news. A video has even surfaced trying to debunk claims that Russians have captured Chasiv Yar's outskirts. So for now, we'll have to wait and see how things develop. In addition, intense assaults continue near Protechene, Олександру-Шультіне, Плещеївка, Щербинівка, and the Russian forces are also pushing toward Олександру-Шультіне and Katerynivka. Offensive actions continue as well on Stepanivka and Poltavka. Overall, the fighting is ongoing, and the Ukrainian forces are doing everything they can to keep Russian troops as far away from surrounding Kostiantynivka as possible. Meanwhile, in the Pokrovsk direction, things are much. I don't know what is it. So in the Pokrovsk direction, things are much worse. It's now confirmed yet again that Russian troops have advanced to the town of Biletske and have secured positions near the railway. This shows that they are starting to encircle the town of Rodynske. But even more concerning, on the geolocation map, the central part of Pokrovsk, which was marked as a gray zone just yesterday, is now already turning red. That's because Ukrainian forces have repeatedly eliminated Russian sabotage and reconnaissance groups in that area. However, the Russians keep reappearing, showing that their presence there remains active and persistent, and the situation in the city center is deteriorating. So, unfortunately, it looks like we may be starting to gradually lose Pokrovsk. Although Russia hasn't yet committed its main forces, at least that's what the geolocation data suggests, we are still waiting for official confirmation from the Ukrainian side, but it does look the situation is bad. In the Novopavlivka direction, the situation has also worsened. Russian forces have now taken full control of Oleksiivka and have advanced significantly across the fields. Attacks are already taking place in the Dnipropetrovsk region beyond the village of Dachne near Горіхове and even close to Zaporizhzhia. They haven't yet managed to break through to the village of Filia as their Ukrainian forces are successfully repelling the assaults. However, the situation there remains extremely difficult. In the Velika Novosilka direction, Russian troops are pushing through near Maliivka, close to the village of Shevchenko, and as before are attempting to control Dnipropetrovsk. Some Russian sources claim the village is already under their control, but the Ukrainian side hasn't confirmed this yet, so we're still waiting for official updates. In the Gulay-Pole direction, Russian forces are once again storming Malinivka, but haven't yet managed to take full control of the village. The Ukrainian forces continue to repel the attacks. Over the past 24 hours, the front line hasn't changed. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, Russian troops are attempting to break through near the village of Plavni, trying to capture its northern part in order to move toward Stepnohirsk. However, despite previous gains, they haven't been able to advance for the past 2 days, and the front line remains unchanged. In the Kherson direction, Russian forces continue attempting to break through on the islands near Oleshky. Activity remains high, but they haven't achieved any success so far, and the Ukrainian forces are destroying all Russian groups there. Now, moving to the Kramatorsk direction. Activity here has increased significantly, both in terms of shelling and offensive actions. Previously, this area was relatively quiet with no active combat recorded, but now Russian troops are assaulting Novomarkove, Minkivka, and Bondarne. They aren't launching 50 attacks per day like in some other areas, and most likely this isn't a push toward Kramatorsk itself, but rather an attempt to stretch Ukrainian forces along an even wider front. So far, we're waiting to see how the situation unfolds as Russia's exit plans remain unclear. This is only an assumption. In the Siversk direction, Russian forces are once again attempting to break through toward Yampil. They are using drones and launching assaults on Serebryanka, trying to push through near Grigorivka, Vyimka, and towards Zvanivka, and are also storming Fedorivka. This situation is tense as the level of activity remains very high, but the front line hasn't changed for now. In the Lyman direction, Russian troops are trying to advance around Torske, launching assaults on Yampolivka, Shandrigolove, Novy Mir, and Olhivka. However, despite more than 20 attacks per day, there have been no new changes on the ground over the past 24 hours. In the Borova direction, Russian forces are assaulting Bohuslavka, but so far they've had no major success, so the front line hasn't changed in the past 24 hours. In the Kupiansk direction, Russian troops are attacking Rodynske and the outskirts of Kupiansk. However, no new assaults have been recorded from the southern flank, and Ukrainian forces are successfully repelling all Russian attacks. The front line remains stable here as well. In the Dvorichna direction, Russian forces continue attacks in the areas of Krasnopershe and Kamianka, although they managed to improve their positions in the fields and expand their control. They're not yet advancing toward the village of Kolodezne, and no changes to the front line have been recorded in the past 24 hours. In the Kharkiv direction, Russian troops haven't launched any new assaults, and all previous attacks on the village of Zeleny ended in failure for them. Fighting continues in Vovchansk, but the Russians have made no progress there. In the Sumy direction, Russian forces continue attacks near Kostiantynivka, are storming Kindrativka, and trying to regain control of the village. Fighting is also taking place around Varachine, Yablonivka, and Yunakivka. However, Ukrainian forces are currently repelling all attacks, and there are no changes on the front line. Ukrainian counterattacks appear to have stopped, as there is no official information about them. Meanwhile, near the village of Tetkina, Russians are once again trying to break through the border, but for now, Ukrainian forces are holding their positions and no breakthroughs have occurred. Meanwhile, discussions continue regarding Trump's ultimatum. Senator Marco Rubio said Trump won't wait forever. Earlier this week, on Monday or Tuesday, we have a full conversation with the Russians, not with Putin, but with some of his top officials, in hopes of reaching an understanding about the path to peace. But we are not seeing any progress. The president has many options. He could, for example, impose secondary sanctions on the sale of Russian oil, which is a major source of their revenue. There are also banking sector sanctions that could be very effective. Again, we are hoping to avoid all that and find a way to stop the fighting. We believe that's the best path forward. We are open to alternatives, but the best outcome is to stop the shooting and start talks. So far, we haven't seen any sincere interest from the Russian side. We'll remain ready to engage in something like that if it becomes possible. But yes, the president won't wait forever. Friends, be sure to share your thoughts in the comments. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.